Hello everyone and welcome back to my channel. Today's video will be my March and April wrap up. I read a total of 9 books in March and April. I read 4 books in March. 2 of them were physical books, 1 was an ebook, and then I listened to 1 audiobook. And then in April I read 5 books. 3 of them were physical reads and 2 of them I listened to on audio, and then 1 of them was a reread. I have a lot of opinions about the books that I read, so I'm just gonna go ahead and jump straight in with my March books. So the first one I read was Wild Side by Elsie Silver. This is the 3rd book in the Rose Hill series, and this I gave 3 out of 5 stars. I didn't read the 2nd book in the series, but the 1st book I did read and I gave it 2 stars. I skipped the 2nd book and I was curious about this 3rd book, so I did pick it up. I will be looking down to reference my reading journal and look at all my notes. When Tabitha's nephew's guardianship is contested, she'll do whatever it takes to keep him in Rose Hill, even if she has to marry the enemy. I did enjoy this, but I think I wasn't necessarily in the mood for it at the time. I feel like I could really love this upon a reread in a couple of years. I didn't really like Tabitha in the beginning, but I really grew to love her. I think she has great character development throughout this book. I did really like Rhys. I thought he also had great character development. They both had a lot of issues with certain things, and I feel like they both kind of overcame those throughout the book, which I enjoyed. I did enjoy reading about Tabitha falling for Rhys, and obviously I loved how he fell in love with her first and he liked her from day one. The grief aspect in this book I thought was really well done. I will say I don't really like the way that Erica was portrayed. That kind of bothered me a little bit. Also, Rhys in here is a wrestler. I didn't really explain that, but he is kind of like a wrestler in the WWE, and I actually grew up loving the WWE and I would watch it religiously every week. Honestly, the portrayal of the WWE, or the wrestling aspect in here, was so well done. I really feel like Elsie Silver understood the point of WWE and the fandom and the storylines and all of that. As somebody who loved wrestling growing up, I felt like Elsie Silver did that justice, if that makes sense. Yeah, there wasn't much conflict in this book. I feel like it was kind of just about Tabitha and Rhys falling in love, which normally I love in books. I love when they focus just on the couple. I feel like that is a very true romance book. And that's why I feel like upon a reread, I might enjoy this more. I think I was just not really knowing what to expect with this book. I really like how Rhys kind of found his family, and that was really beautiful. I cried when the family gathered around to watch some of his matches. That just made me so emotional. I really did enjoy this, and honestly makes me convinced that I should still pick up Elsie Silver books. Also, I got the Indigo edition, which has a print here, which is very pretty. Then I read Bourbon and Lies by Victoria Wilder. This is the 1st book in the Bourbon Boys series, and this I gave 3.5 out of 5 stars. Lainey Young is running from danger, which leads her to Fiasco, Kentucky. Lainey ends up working for the Fox brothers with their bourbon company, but any woman who's gotten close to a Fox brother has ended up dead, or so the rumor goes. Will Lainey be the one to break the curse or bring more danger with her? I kind of briefly talked about this in a vlog not too long ago. I will link that vlog down below. I kind of did give my thoughts, but I did enjoy this. I just thought it was a little too slow. I wish there were a little bit more reveals throughout the book instead of just hinting at certain things and then everything kind of happening at the end. I wish there was just a little bit more reveals throughout, but it did keep me on my toes. I did want to know what happened, and the ending was very intense and dramatic. I did like Lainey and Grant, and I liked their development in their relationship. I just wasn't super connected to the romance. I do feel like something was kind of missing for me. I feel like towards the end, it was just very fast paced. Grant was coming at her full force, and I was just whoa, 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 this is going crazy. But I feel like once Grant realized how much he cared about Lainey, he was just all in, which I do like, but it just felt like so much was going on towards the end. There was also kind of a plot twist towards the end, which I did not see coming. That really took me off guard. I was whoa, I did not connect the dots whatsoever. And I loved Julep the dog. She was so sweet. I loved seeing her bond with Lainey. It was interesting to read about the Fox brothers and to get to know them and the family. I will eventually continue this series. I am curious about the other 2 books, but I'm gonna have to wait to pick them up until I'm in the mood for a suspense romance. I think honestly the next 2 books I also talked about in the same vlog for Bourbon and Lies. So the next one that I read was Painted Scars by Neva Altach. I cannot pronounce that for some reason. This is the first book in the Perfectly Imperfect series, and this I gave 2 out of 5 stars. To save her father from death, Nina must marry Roman, who is like the head mob boss of the Russian mob. But if she can't convince everyone she's madly in love with Roman, she may also lose her life. This was okay. This was not my typical dark mafia romance. This was very cute. It was very insta-lovey. It was very sweet. It was very romantic. It wasn't necessarily a dark romance, in my opinion. It had dark elements, but it wasn't dark, if that makes sense. Especially the kind of mafia romances that I've read in the past. This is nowhere near as intense or scary as other ones I've read before. The mafia element just didn't really feel realistic in this book. For some reason, I didn't feel like it was serious. I think also another issue that I had with this book is that Nina felt like 2 separate characters throughout this book. Like in the beginning, she felt like kind of this rebellious, independent, artsy character. And then she became kind of this submissive, but also like, I'm the queen of the castle kind of vibe. And I just felt like there was a 180 in her personality. Her personality just didn't feel consistent throughout the entire book. I felt like she was a different person by the end of the book compared to the beginning of the book. And I know like you can go through things and change, but she just felt like 2 different people. I just felt like there was no plot, like nothing really happened. And I don't know why they were always in the kitchen. Like there was always something about them going in the kitchen. It just wasn't my type of dark romance. And unfortunately, I don't think I'm going to continue the series unless you guys recommend the best book in the series. Maybe I'll just read that one. But yeah, I was not impressed with this first book. In the same vlog that I discussed Painted Scars and Bourbon and Lies, I also did discuss Leather and Lark by Bryn Weaver. This is the second book in the Ruinous Love trilogy. This I gave 2 out of 5 stars, and I primarily listened to this on audio. I think I did physically read maybe like the last 3-4 chapters. Contracted killer Lachlan Kane wants a quiet life working in his leather studio, but when he botches a job for his boss's biggest client, Lachlan knows he'll never be able to quit, at least not until Lark offers him a deal. Use his skills to hunt down a killer and she'll find a way to secure his freedom. The catch, they just need to get married first. This was just really boring, I'm gonna be honest. It just was boring. I did not care about the characters. I didn't really care about the romance. The audiobook was great. I did like it. I really did not know why I picked up this second book. I liked the first book, but I didn't like it enough to like continue the series, so I don't know why I picked up the second one. I think I just picked it up because it is like a marriage of convenience and I love that, and that's why I picked it up, but it really did not work for me. I just didn't enjoy this book. The first half of this book was so incredibly boring, like nothing happened. And then towards the end, the plot was actually picking up, the romance was picking up. And then the end just felt so anticlimactic. Lark's family was really interesting, but I don't know. I felt like the romance was too slow burn and there wasn't enough crime and action going on. And I just wasn't into the book, sadly. So those were all the books that I read in March. Now on to my April reads. So the first one is Death Valley by Karina Halley. This I gave 4 out of 5 stars. 3 years ago, Aubrey's sister went missing. Desperate for answers, she hires rancher and wilderness guide Jensen to help discover what happened to her sister. Traveling the Sierra Nevada mountains isn't easy, especially when members of the crew start disappearing. Jensen and Aubrey will need to trust each other in order to survive and leave the mountain alive. I really, really enjoyed this. I thought it was such an interesting and unique concept. I knew nothing about the, what is it called? Donor Party, which this is kind of based off of that. I knew nothing about it. There is a little bit of information about the Donor Party at the beginning here. So if you also don't know about that, there is kind of a brief little summary. Karina's writing in here was just fantastic. You could really feel like you were in the mountains. You could really feel the suspense. You could feel the fear. You could feel the uneasiness and the unknown. You really felt like you were there with the characters experiencing what they were experiencing and how crazy it was and how just unsettling everything felt. You could really feel like they were about to die, like that they really were not going to come out of it alive. And I don't know, Karina did such a great job with the writing in that aspect. And I did enjoy the romance. I think I wanted a little bit more from the romance, but honestly, I think their main concern was survival. I don't think it was necessarily about falling in love. I think that's honestly my only complaint about this book is the romance. I just wanted a little bit more. I felt a little disconnected from the romance a little bit. It just wasn't as much as I wanted, I guess. But other than that, this book was just fantastic, and it's definitely going to be one of my favorite books of the year. It was just really good, and it really stuck with me after I finished it. And I remember I was reading parts of it at night, and there's like one specific part where I was like, okay, I need to stop here because I'm going to scare myself and I'm not going to be able to sleep. So I had to like pick it up the next day instead. But yeah, I really enjoyed this. Highly recommend. This is also a perfect fall, but also winter read. Highly recommend. Then I read If You Love Me by Helena Hunting. This is the fourth book in the Toronto Terror series, and this I gave 3 out of 5 stars. Roman and Lexi had a special weekend years ago, but Lexi left without a trace. 3 years later, Roman is in his last year as a player, and now the team welcomes a new coach, Lexi. Players and staff are not allowed to cross the line, but can Roman and Lexi hold off till Roman's officially retired? I know I've been giving all of these books 3 out of 5 stars in this series, but I am starting to really like the characters. I'm really starting to feel this family bond, this found family between all the characters, and I'm really starting to love them. And not that I wasn't loving them before, but I just feel like each book was kind of mediocre to me, but now I'm like caring about the characters a lot more, and I'm like, of course I need to read the next book. Like, I can't just not read it. I really enjoyed this one. I think it was definitely different from the rest of the series. It did still have this like secret relationship, which is just a common thread throughout the series. This one did feel different though, because Roman and Lexi are a little bit older. Well, Roman is. There is a little bit of an age gap, but Roman is definitely older, and he can recognize when he is at fault and he apologizes. Like, there's one specific situation in here where Lexi kind of tells him like, you can't do this. Like, this is crossing a boundary for me, and like, I won't put up with this. And he immediately understands that, and he's like, okay, yeah, I didn't realize I did this, and like, you know, he apologized. And I think that's what I really liked about this book, is that these characters were both very mature. They were just really great at communicating, which I enjoyed. I just wasn't fully feeling the romance. Like, I did feel like there was a little bit of a lack of chemistry, and some of the sex scenes I did skim because I was just wanting to get to the point of the book, you know? So I don't know. I liked it, but I'm not like super in love with the series. I am growing to love the characters more though, and I love seeing them in each other's books and getting to see more of them. Lexi is also sort of like a single parent. She has guardianship over her 2 sisters. So she's kind of battling this new job, moving with her sisters in this new place, and also hiding a relationship. So Lexi's got a lot on her plate. And I will say that I really enjoyed getting to know her 2 sisters and them bonding with Roman and the rest of the Toronto Terrors group and found family. And yeah, I did really like a lot of aspects of this book. I feel like the romance just wasn't completely there for me, but overall I really liked everything else, and I will probably continue the series. Then I reread Vicious by V.E. Schwab, and this I gave 5 out of 5 stars. I actually listened to the entire book on audio, except for maybe like the last 100 pages. I think the last 100 pages I physically read just because I'm faster than the audiobook, but I did listen to a majority of this on audio, and I really liked the audiobook. Victor and Eli started out as college roommates and had a shared interest in research on adrenaline and near-death experiences, which could lead to extraordinary abilities. 10 years later, Victor breaks out of prison, determined to catch up with his old friend Eli, and ends up making new friends along the way. Meanwhile, Eli is trying to kill extraordinaries with a powerful sidekick. Victor and Eli, both armed with dangerous power, but who will be left alive in the end? This is such a masterpiece of a book. I love this book. I read this first back in August of 2016. Back then, I gave it 5 out of 5 stars. Again, I'm giving it 5 out of 5 stars. This book is just so masterfully done. Did I already say that? I feel like I did, but it is just so wonderfully written. It kind of goes back and forth between the present and the past, and you kind of get a glimpse of Victor and Eli when they were in college and what their relationship was like, this slow progression of how they ended up where they are now. And I really like our little Victor, Mitch, and Sydney family. I love them. And I'm sorry to say, but I am a Victor Vale supporter through and through. I will support Victor's wrongs and rights. I'm so glad I reread it because I wanted to finally read Vengeful, which I did. But I've been putting off my reread for a very long time, but I'm so glad I finally reread it because it was just as good as the first time. I literally did not remember anything about this book other than Eli and Victor having a beef. That was all I remembered about it, and it was like I had never read it before, which is such an amazing feeling. I feel like this book really makes you question good versus evil and who is right or wrong. I feel like V.E. Schwab just really created this unique story and really just put all the puzzle pieces together. And like, at first you're kind of wondering why Victor is hanging out with certain people or like what his plan is. And at the end you realize, oh my God, like everything kind of ties together. Everything makes sense. The puzzle pieces fit. And yeah, I also just love the last line of this book and I loved it. I highly recommend if you have been putting off Vicious for many, many years, please go read it. Also, V.E. Schwab literally said she finished writing the 3rd book. I feel like this always happens to me wherever I'm like thinking about a book or I just read a book or I just bought one and then the author announces something and I'm like, I knew it. Like subconsciously I knew it. But yes, please go read this if you haven't yet. It is amazing. Then I read Wild and Wrangled by Lila Sage. This is the 4th and final book in the Rebel Blue Ranch series, and this I gave 3 out of 5 stars. Camille's life turned upside down when her groom didn't show for their wedding day. Not ready to face everyone, her high school sweetheart Dusty rescues her. After 15 years apart, can they build a friendship, or were they always destined to be more? I enjoyed aspects of this book, but I think overall I have a lot of problems with it, which is really unfortunate because it is the last book in the series and I was so excited to read about Cam and Dusty, but I think I just didn't really like Cam, to be honest. I can't explain exactly why I don't like Cam because that spoils the book and I'm not going to do that, but vaguely I'll just say that, you know, there are things that she did that really proved to me that she didn't care about Dusty as much as he cared about her. There were just some things that Cam did that didn't really sit right with me. This man pined for years and years. And even though like Cam wasn't necessarily satisfied with her life, she did still move on in some aspects. I do understand that Cam has a really complicated look on love and relationships because of her parents. Like her parents basically ignore her, but also want to control her at the same time, which is very confusing. And I get also that she was, you know, trying to take care of her daughter in the best way that she could, but I feel like she definitely was kind of forgetting that like Riley also has her dad and her dad's family that are very capable of taking care of Riley and Cam if needed. So I don't know, it just felt like there were a lot of excuses that Cam kind of put into her reasoning for doing things, if that makes sense. Also, this book was just a little too slow burn, especially for how short it is. I understand Cam and Dusty have a lot of history, but it just felt like it was way too slow. Like their relationship was really not progressing until the very end. And you do get flashes of them in high school and how they broke up and like what happened, which wasn't nice to read about in a way, I guess, to kind of just get their backstory. But the way that they broke up was just so, I guess it was immature and they were young. So I understand that. I feel like it was just not a good enough reason to A, break up, and B, not speak to each other for like 15 years. I really just don't get that that's how they broke up. I really loved Dusty, and I really loved the Ryder family, and I loved Dusty kind of bonding with Riley. That was very cute and very sweet. I also will say there's some really great conversations that Cam has with Wes and with Amos. Those were beautiful conversations. I loved that. I also loved Dusty's convo with, is it Amos? Amos. I want to say it's Amos, but I could be wrong. At the end here, there is a beautiful chapter, which is in Emmy's point of view, and it is her wedding day. This chapter, I cried the entire chapter. If I could rate this book just based on the last chapter, it would be 5 out of 5 stars. Like this chapter is 5 out of 5 stars for me. I feel like this is a beautiful ending to the series. It really wraps up the series in this nice little bow. And without that chapter, I would have been very upset with how this book ended, to be quite honest. But the wedding chapter was just beautiful. It made me cry. The conversations that Emmy had with her dad and her brothers, and them reminiscing about the mom and them racing their horses. I don't know why, but I'm going to cry right now, even thinking about it. It was just such a beautiful chapter. And then her and Luke getting married was just wonderful. And yeah, I loved that ending chapter. I'm sad that it's over. I am really sad, but I'm excited to read Lila's new series. And then lastly, I did read Vengeful by V.E. Schwab. This is obviously the sequel to Vicious, and this I gave 4 out of 5 stars. And I did listen to pretty much all of this on audio, except I think for like maybe the last 50 pages, I physically read it. Flush from her brush with death, Marcella Riggins has finally gained the power and control she's always wanted, collecting her own sidekicks and putting the two most infamous EOs, Victor and Eli, against each other once again. Marcella will do anything it takes to bring Merritt to its knees. I did enjoy this, but compared to Vicious, it is not good, if that makes sense. It does not compare to Vicious, in my opinion. I don't feel like Vicious needed a sequel. I could have definitely went without reading this, but I am happy I did read it though. I think my issue with this book is there were just way too many new characters. There were way too many plots happening all at once. And yes, some of those plots kind of tied together, but some of them just really weren't necessary. And I kind of feel like Marcella is just another version of Serena. She didn't feel like a new character to me. I think I only rooted for Marcella when she got her one thing of revenge. I was like, yeah, girl, you do that. But then the rest of it, I was like, I cannot support you, girl. I cannot. June was a very interesting character, but she also weirded me out. Like, what's she up to? I don't trust her. I don't trust her completely. And I feel like I'm unsatisfied with the ending of this book. And the fact that like the third book is not even out yet and V.E. Schwab ended it like that, I was just kind of like, okay, so there is a third book or not? Like the ending just did not feel complete whatsoever. Whereas like in Vicious, it felt complete. I was like, oh yeah, I'm fine with how this book ends. But this one, it's like, I don't like how it ended. Like, I was unsatisfied. I'm sorry, but these new EOs, they do not compare to Victor and Eli. Like, they are not as smart as Victor and Eli. Victor and Eli are in their own league compared to these other EOs. They are the blueprint. Like, they are the smarties in this world. It was thrilling and exciting, but it just felt kind of all over the place plot-wise, which I didn't love. And there were just too many characters, and I don't know, I feel like V.E. Schwab built this little family, and they were not really connecting, which really bothered me and made me sad because that is what I loved about the first book. But of course, I loved seeing Sydney and Doll and Mitch and Dom. Of course, Sydney is always the one to pick up the slack. Sydney, of course, we have to have our girl who is saving everybody. Sydney is the one. I'm excited to read the third book, whenever that comes out. The audiobook was great for this one as well. I think I prefer the audiobook for the first book, Vicious, but it was still a great audiobook, and I am glad that I finally read this and I can finally knock it off my TBR, and it is... Actually, I think it's the first book that I read for my 25 in 25 so far. So those were all the books that I read in March and April. Let me know if you've read any of these books and what you think about them, or let me know any of your recent reads. Thank you so much for watching. Make sure to give this video a like, subscribe, follow me on all my other social media, and I will see you in my next one. Bye.